Stand by for a sit rep. You're listening to The Blunt Truth, a high and tight media production. I'm your host, David Huckins. Today we're pulling back the curtain on the cannabis landscape. We'll be breaking down the latest news, discussing current events, and profiling the players moving the needle in this industry. No fluff, no gatekeeping, just the unvarnished truth. Before we dive in, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you're watching. Let's get into it. Dave Huckins here with the Blunt Truth podcast. I'll try that again. That was awkward. I didn't even know what podcast I was doing there for a minute. Hey everybody, it's Dave Huckins here with the Blunt Truth. We're having a veteran on tonight. Joining me tonight as co-host is the man who doesn't pull a single punch, Jeff Khoshaba from Kashaba Craft. We're moving past the corporate talking points to look at some high-stakes reality of the Missouri micro-business landscape. So, without further ado, here's my buddy, Jeff. Hey, what's up, Jeff? How you doing, my brother?
Hey, David, I'm good. Thanks for having me on, brother. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. So, do you have anything you want to fill the audience in on? Any updates since last time we talked?
Just for anybody who hadn't seen before, I'm Jeff Khoshaba. I'm the founder of Kashaba Craft. We're a small batch cultivator in Michigan who are getting ready to launch in the metric market from the legacy and tribal market over the coming months. So, grateful to be on.
And if you want to know more about his story in the legacy market, including getting raided twice, tune into the episode that we did on my other podcast, Social Equity in Missouri Cannabis. So this is a crossover episode. We're doing the Blunt Truth now. So basically it's the same thing, but it's not limited to micro business talk. This is more of an industry worldwide cannabis interest show.
Excellent. There's a lot going on to talk about.
All right, so let's see here. Our next guest is going to be Oliver Summers, but to truly understand, we're going to have to talk about the man who was there when the blueprint was written. Our guest tonight is a 20-year L.A. dispensary operator, advocate, and the author of The Duke of Pico, Oliver Summers. Let's see if I can get him on the stage. Hey, what's up, Oliver Summers? How you doing, brother?
Oh, gentlemen, hello. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
We got some. We classed it up with some special effects. Welcome to the show, Oliver.
Excellent. Thank you.
So, I'm gonna just kick things off by asking the obvious question. Actually, before we get into that, I'm gonna let you give a chance to introduce yourself and tell us about your book or your website or your upcoming social engagement at wherever that might be, talking about whatever you might want to talk about. The floor is yours, sir.
Oh, well, thank you, my friend. Well, social butterfly, I'm always around at all the different events here, there, and the other, Now that, although only when they're in the daytime. These new nighttime events, I can't make it. I'm just getting too old now to stay up until 12 o'clock at night doing dabs, But other than that, but yes, I inadvertently was one of the people that, was around right at the beginning for the cannabis transition into this new world of, first I was the guy who used to sell, weed to people on their couches for many years, and
what?
Way out eighths and run around the city with our little messenger bags filled with a little scale and all of that stuff. Ziploc.
Jeff doesn't know anything about that.
No, I understand. That's not a thing. But then he transitioned. A friend of mine was like, "Let's open up a shop in L.A." right at the beginning, there was really only about 4 shops open up in LA at the time, and 4 or 5 by the time we opened. We were number 14, and now you think about it, there's 1,500 and 9,000 in the
really
of LA. Oh yeah, well,
wow.
With the illegal shops and licensed shops and the quagmire that is LA that I've been let's just say, dug into for so many years. And then we just got messed around so much with in the beginning, and then you just couldn't help but help all the medicinal patients. And then things just started getting bigger and becoming bigger than yourself. And we all started grouping together, and we formed one of the first advocacy groups for just dispensary operators that grew into something bigger. It was called GLACA, the Greater Los Angeles Collectives Alliance. And now, there's 50 million advocacy groups across the country. And we like to say that we helped set the blueprint for how it was going to start. And again, it was all inadvertent. None of us ever set out to be like, we're going to change the world and do all of this stuff. We just all wanted to have our little dispensaries and not be messed by the DEA and all that.
Right. And it's been smooth sailing ever since, right?
It's been clear as rain the whole time, just loving every minute.
Yeah.
But then, but during that time, let's just say I've been involved with over 13 dispensaries personally that have been, so it's been a long run, if you will, up and down the state, Monterey, Santa Cruz, Los Angeles. And now I just work, with a small group out here in L.A., do my thing, kind of just biding my time, if you will, until the cloud of craziness kind of hopefully passes by and I can just open up my own little mom and pop shop again and basically come full circle to where we were 20 years ago.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do in Missouri with my micro business exploits, but it's tough going for a guy who just has a license and no money. It's pretty tough out there.
Until we can go into a bank like a big normal business and say, hello, here's my business plan. You either approve it or you do not. And, that's going to be the way that, for lack of a better term, I hate puns, but weed out the bad actors, if you will. And we can just do what we do. I'm not looking to become the billionaire, the streets paved with green gold, as many people were thinking when they first came into the business. My first shop was just a little on-site consumption lounge, and it was literally just, we had tea in the corner, no TVs. You just came in and hung out. This was, of course, pre-iPhone and all those days, so I am dating myself a little bit. But that's all I want to get. You want to be McDonald's, be McDonald's. I just want to be the little, the nice little restaurant on your corner, your neighborhood place, Archie Bunker's place.
Sure. Jeff messaged me offline, and he wanted to know the answer to this question. He wanted to know, so if you're the Duke of Pico, was that like an honorary position? Is this passed down from the king? Did he assign you some land and title to be the Duke of Pico? What is the Duke of Pico?
Back in the day, most of us had a little bit of an alternative name, as we did not want to have our real names out there as sorts of anonymity, if you will. And everybody had a nickname of something or another. So my first dispensary was 3 blocks away from where I lived, and I would walk to work every day. And at that point, I'd been living in that neighborhood for about 12 years. So I had already been selling weed to a bunch of people in the neighborhood. So one day we were standing outside the shop and we were just hanging out, and people were walking by and they're like, "Hey, Oliver, what's up?" I'm like, "Hey, Jim, how you doing today, buddy?" And my buddy looked at me just like, everybody in this neighborhood. You're like the Duke of the neighborhood. You're the Duke of Pico Boulevard, because it was Pico Boulevard. And hence, he just kept screaming out to everybody, "This guy's the Duke of Pico." So it just felt like a fun name. And then it turned out years later that my grandfather apparently was nicknamed the Duke back when he was younger, during his, let's just say, illegitimate days of doing things. So it just seemed kind of funny that I was repeating history in such a way. And now it's become a funny thing, because so many of the people's names aren't around anymore. Are the people that most people would know, like a Subcool or DJ Short, like those guys. I like to think I'm just sort of fitting into that sort of mindset.
Well, my nickname from back in the day was Glitter Sparkle Bomb, and I'm glad that nobody remembers that or says anything about it, because I'm trying to not I don't want anybody to start calling me that again.
School, you know, so
Glitter Sparkle Bomb. I'm just kidding. Nobody called me that. That never happened.
You never know. Listen, I spent 10 years making a documentary about a very famous LA punk band called The Germs, and I had full access. And believe me when I tell you, I met some personalities who would come up and they're like, you know, I'm Strawberry Alice, and you're like, you're a 63-year-old man, and they're like, that's what he calls me.
With plastic bags on your feet. What are you doing, sir?
So never underestimate the nickname of people and how some of them got them over time.
For sure. So, talking about the crazy days, according to my research, you used to be a cameraman for the Howard Stern show before getting fired over cannabis. Oh, you didn't think we were going to talk about that. You didn't know that I had some connections and I was going to ask questions about the embarrassing stuff, did you? What's up with that?
That is one of my favorites. Yes, I was a cameraman. I moved out to L.A. in '94 like everybody else to be a famous filmmaker. You know, it was the '90s, you see. Tarantino had just come out, so we all wanted to be that guy, right?
Sure.
And I became a cameraman, as many people making different things, and I was working for E! Entertainment Television and all of these. I mean, I did so many. I worked for a show called Dr. 90210 where I would dress in the scrubs and film surgeries, like, you know, plastic surgeries, all of it. I did it all. I did crime scene cleanup. You name it, my week would be Monday watching crime scene cleanup, Tuesday would be doing, you know, Howard Stern, Wednesday, you know, red carpet for a major movie. It was all over the place. So my best friend in the world was the editor for Howard Stern for many years, and he got me hooked up with them because they needed a West Coast cameraman. Anytime they shot anything out here in LA, they needed somebody to just pick up the camera and film, and I was their guy. And so after I was on my third dispensary at this point. We had the comedian Doug Benson was a client of ours, and Doug was like, "Oh, you're going to go on this film shoot tomorrow with Sarah Silverman and Ryan Philippe," and it was called Celebrity Superfan Roundtable. And I was like, you know, where everybody gets around and talks about how awesome Howard is in the show and all of that stuff.
Yeah, okay.
And so he was like, I want you to give them this. And he put together some little goodie bags from them from my shop, you know, like a gram and an edible, or it wasn't even an edible at the time. It was like a gram and a joint. So the next day, do the shoot. Show is over. I want to always emphasize this part of the story. The cameras were in the bag. Everybody was walking out the door like it was over. It was done for the day. And I went up to them and I'm like, hey, I run a dispensary over on Melrose. Here is a little goodie bag from Doug Benson. And the two of them immediately rip it open. They're like, oh my God, look at this. They're trading. Ha, 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 all funny. Next day, I get this email that's like, we can never hire you again. You can't do that. That's super unprofessional. Now, this is 2009. So, of course, it's totally different. Now, it's like,
sure.
You'd be like, well, it's my own personal vineyard of, you know, cannabis, and it's my brand. And they'd be like, oh, that's so neat that you have your own little spot. No, not then. Then it was like, you're a drug dealer. We can't hire you anymore. So I had been working for so long as a cameraman at that point, but I'd been working in the dispensaries for about 3 years at that point. And you know what? It just was the most beautiful end to the cameraman career. I was just like, you know what? If anything's going to be the end, this is it. And that really was it. I didn't do any more professional work. I did a bunch of stuff for cannabis after that, you know, because people needed to have stuff look good, et cetera, et cetera. But I always felt that it was the most beautiful wrap up with a bow ending one could ever ask for of a career. you know,
Perfect transition.
and a beautiful transition, like literally intertwined, just lapped over each other. And, now I still listen to Howard Stern. I'm a born and raised New York City boy. I've been listening to Howard since he first came on the air. It's just part of my lifestyle. I still need my big gulp of Stern in the morning before breakfast. And they talk about eating edibles, and they talk about this person getting high this day, and they laugh, and I just sit there. And I honestly can say there are points where I'll be listening to the radio and I'll just be sitting there like this. Okay, I get it. Like times have changed.
Yep, for sure. The fact that we're even on a podcast just openly discussing cannabis, is kind of mind blowing if you think about it.
I mean, I was one of those guys who used to go on the news back in the beginning, and it was literally one of those things like, I can't believe you're going on the news talking about. I had the head of Dare, Los Angeles chapter of Dare, put her finger this close to my face and call me a disgusting human being back in 2007 for running a dispensary.
Wow.
It's like, and now you think about it, it's just, oh yeah, had the city attorney call me a piece of shit. We had all kinds of fun, and now we're the belle of the ball, but back then we were the ugly girl that nobody wanted to touch.
For sure.
Different world now.
Yeah, we took off our glasses, let down our hair, and it turned out we were hot.
Turns out that we were doing a little pre-show talk, and Jeff is apparently a big fan of yours from back in the day. Been following you around on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
So,
I don't really do much on LinkedIn except for whine and complain every now and then, but that's about it.
Man, it is crazy how social media, I just tried to get off Facebook. I deleted my Facebook account for 30 days and kind of tried to just focus on LinkedIn. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to get away from some of this political social media, this toxic social media. And admittedly, there's not as much on LinkedIn, but you still got to move around it if you don't want to get involved in it,
Oh, I mean, listen, once they talked Schedule 3, that obviously blurred the lines of all the politics and everything.
No, everything's perfectly clear now. Oh my God, best thing ever for cannabis.
So, like, for social media purposes, it really did. And you'll what it comes down to, one of the beauties of cannabis people is there you have your people who are, the heavy hardcore readers who just sit and they read everything not nailed down, and they're, like Kafka and etc. And then you have your straight conspiracy, crazy, world is flat, and all that. And we have everything in between. And that's cannabis. And it's just who is going to have the voice of that moment on social media.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Because really, we're everybody, and we're all over this business right now, and it's just so funny to watch. Like everybody thinks we need to be, because for so long, especially people. I mean, not to date myself, of a child of the 70s and all that stuff, but the pot smoker was the hippie, he was the loser.
Oh yeah,
go see your Grateful Dead show, which I did quite often, but that's different. I wasn't that bad of a stereotype. And then but like, you weren't welcome at the party. You were there.
Yeah, no, you had to hang out with your pothead friends.
You were out. Yeah, you were not allowed to hang around with the other groups or whatever. Now, especially in 18, like 2018 to 2020, like I said, we were the most welcome people everywhere. So it's just funny to me on watching like how we've grown from that little tiny stereotype to this huge thing of now every single person in the world. Everybody's smoking weed.
Personality and opinions you can imagine. They're out there and they're strong and they're loud.
Yeah, but everybody's smoking weed at this point in time, and it's what's when because all day I sit in the dispensary, and I'm in a very very busy shop, so it's where we deal with hundreds of people a day, and the personality types that you just see all day. There's no if somebody would be like, can you describe your typical cannabis smoker? And be like, Skittles, baby. That's like
For
it's
All
sure.
walks of life.
So when it comes
Anybody and
back to that
everybody.
social media thing, it's like you sit there on LinkedIn and you'll be flowing through and every single person's going to be having an opinion, telling you how to do something. This is the problem with the current business of today. You're like, oh, you're going to tell me that the current problem with the business, you know.
Hmm.
Half of these people have been to 5 dispensaries in their lives and they are an expert. They
Yeah,
figure it.
experts coming up out of the woodwork the last
Yeah.
few years.
Yeah, I went to Planet 13 and met men. I think I have an idea about how dispensaries should work. No.
Hey, Oliver, have you ever smoked any craft cannabis?
Craft cannabis, like the stuff that I
Yeah.
have growing right now. Yes, quite a few
Yes.
times.
Well, if
Yeah,
it might
yeah.
be.
I would have to say I would primarily most of the stuff I smoke what I would say is craft over the commercial cannabis that's out there. There are a few brands out there that are quite good. I don't want to make it seem like all of them are really bad. Give a shout out particularly to a company called Blem out here in California who are really trying hard to hold on to those old genetics and do them upright. They have a beautiful train wreck and a beautiful OG Kush right now that just got to give it to them. But on the flip side, I don't like a lot of, on a personal level, I have to always emphasize, on a personal level, I don't want to smoke lemon cherry gelato ever again. You know, I don't want to smoke ice cream cake. I don't want to smoke runts, Z, any of these things. And no offense to any of those things, they're fine, whatever. It's just they're not for me. I'm that's for not to be that guy, but like the newer school of people who are looking for those 30% and higher numbers. And how many times a day do I hear I can only get high if it's 30% or higher,
Uh,
you know? Or my favorite line, what's the packaging date? That's the one that kills me more than anything. What's the packaging date? Packaging date. Let me tell you something. Some of the best weed I've got is some of my friends will be like, I just pulled this out of my garage. It's 2 years old. And you'll be like, oh my God, so tastes so good. The cure is perfect. It's like,
I don't think Jeff knows anything about craft cannabis.
I've
Do you,
understood that
Jeff?
about Jeff. I've heard that he is a novice in the industry of craft. And of
Just
course, we
trying to
do
figure
do
it
an
out.
asterisk with a just kidding sarcastic thing on there. What are you currently growing, might I ask?
So a bunch
Genetic
of
wise.
stuff. It's mostly newer stuff, with the exception of I not that long ago got in a sour diesel cut that I'm
Ah,
trying to
one of my
see if
favorites.
we can get her to be even close to what she was years ago, which is tricky. Especially I've noticed in the new setups, they don't really love the LED lights and the spectrum and the extra intensity.
No, they do not. They do
So we're
not.
trying to nurture
Those
that.
13-week sativas are very finicky and not to interrupt, I apologize, but it's just it's such a reason why we don't see them on the market right now. Because, like you're saying, they're so difficult, they're so finicky. And if you're a corporate guy with a gazillion dollars behind a grow, why are you going to spend an extra 5 weeks growing a plant that you might not even make it to the end of? It's not going to yield what you think it's going to yield when you can do 4,000 pounds of lemon cherry gelato. But then at the end, that lemon cherry gelato, you're going to be sitting on half the weight waiting to sell it, whereas that sour diesel, gone. You know what I mean? Like every last bit of it, you won't be sitting on any of it. It's just such a dichotomy of a world we're living in, of people like yourself. We're trying you're trying to keep that plant alive and get it out there, but it's so difficult, and it's going to cut into your time. It's going to cut into your yield. It cuts into your profits. You have to do it for the love of it. You can't do it for the final monetary reward, if I'm not mistaken.
For sure. I mean, they take longer to grow. They're harder to grow. And I think, there's this perception in the market with the retailers that all anybody wants is, 30% runts, lemon cherry gelato, candy.
I hope not.
Purple candy. And it's not true. When you talk to consumers, a lot of times they're still looking for those old strains. Like, I'll look at the data sometimes, and like, I continuously see Blue Dream, which I've actually never even been a fan of, but I see that pop up as the top-selling strain in Michigan and in California still from time to time. But people are looking for the sour and the OGs. There's just very few people that grow them. So
especially with the nose, that limonene, pinene nose out there. That people want that, crack it open and be like, woof, smell again.
And I feel like strain has less to do with what desired effect you're going to get than what your nose can tell you when you smell it.
I'm a big believer in the nose knows best. Like if you blindfold somebody and you just put those 7 strains in front of somebody, there's one that's really, and I always use the thing of the Vegas buffet. There's 20 chicken dishes, but there's one that you look at that you're like, you know what? That's the one. I got to try that one, right? It's all your senses, everything looking right at that one, making the decision for you without you even mentally kind of thinking about it. And cannabis being such a huge part of our system and our body and our receptors already, that to sit there and nothing is like all of a sudden smelling that one that just lights up every bit of your body, where you just all of a sudden just go, whoa, like, wow, like, damn, I need this. I need to try this right now, right? Like, you remember that excitement you would get from like just that first waft that would hit your nose?
Sure, yeah.
Whereas now it's like people, they sit there and they look at these density of these things. But it's the funniest thing is, and this is partly a lot of, and this is where I get on my little negative diatribe. And again, you guys are going to have to forgive me on this one. It's about a lot of the new consumers of today. I deal with a lot of the we'll say under 30, but really we'll say the under 27 club, if you will, 27-year-olds and younger. They don't know a world without dispensaries. They don't know a world without vape pens.
That seems so weird to me.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I talk to them and I'm like, really? I'm like, can I talk to your dad? And even when I talk to their dads are still way younger than me. I'm like, Grandpa, come here. I got to tell you now. Remember when I used to come and they'd be like, yeah, I remember that. But it's like, and they only are looking for what they're told to really look for at this point in time, because the industry has become so prominent with the voices that we've been talking about, telling them that they want high THC numbers, that they want fresh package date, which I'm always like, you go to your wine, buy wine, go give me the freshest bottle of wine you've got in the store. Right? It doesn't work that way, That's why Scotch has aged 26 years and stuff written on the outside. We're in this really strange period, and a lot of them just don't seem to want to learn right now. But it's also this mindset that we're in. They don't know about those old genetics. They think that that's not going to get them high. They hear sour diesel, they're like, sativa, I can't smoke sativa. It doesn't get me high. They're like,
and most of them have never actually even smoked a real sativa, or when they have, it'll be like a sativa hybrid, like a sour that probably was still picked in 9 or 10 weeks.
Tangy.
It was probably poorly grown.
Absolutely.
And a lot of those cuts, they've just gotten more and more difficult to grow and to
cross
those profiles
over so many times.
A lot of them, they're aged. They've gone through epigenetic changes. So a lot of these old strains, they've either never tried, or when they have tried them, it's been an old, disease cut that wasn't grown well. So they have no idea what they're actually missing on. If you could put the jar in their face of those OGs and sours from 15 years ago and they would go crazy.
They would lose their
love it.
mind.
It was
But
some of
in
the most
the
flavorful cannabis of
mindset,
all time.
they don't see it that way. They see it as, oh, those are your old school. We like the 30 percenters. I honestly hear the term, I cannot get high unless it's 30% or higher. I'm like, really? Because I smoke 10 times as much as you a day, and I'm smoking 25% OGs that are way better than anything that, that they're working on right now. And it's frustrating. And then don't even get me started on like wax and resins and rosins and all of that, because that's, a whole nother thing with the, not to be like these kids today, but yeah, these kids today and their Puffcos and their, when I was young, we didn't need an electronic phone to run our bong, like it's just a funny time and a funny world. And we've come so far, so fast, and we've somehow lost the plot and lost a lot of things in the transition. And we still have this half of this group that remembers, and there's still so many great genetics out there. I'm big on the genetics. There's still so many great genetics out there that are on the family farms. Nobody's, they just not are in public eye. They sell it to the same people that they've always sold it to. They keep the same genetics, the same strains, everything. It's all the same. It's great. But they're waiting like I am, biding their time for things to just sort of lighten up so that they can come into the market and be like, hey, look at how good things can actually be when we really open it up for everybody, as opposed to the closed-minded, money-hungry group that is cannabis today, corporate cannabis, I should say.
What other strains you growing on, Jeff?
So yeah, a bunch of the new, popular stuff. So I've
Lemon
got
cherry gelato.
I actually do have a platinum lemon cherry gelato.
Nice.
Not saying that it doesn't. It's what you have to do in today's market. You got to do it. It's like it sells.
That's true. Yeah.
But
Try
it's
to
like
have like a balance of different stuff. We want to have a selection, like different profiles. So we definitely want to have some of the new candies because that's what a lot of the demand
I'm just
is
saying,
at,
me
but
personally, I'm just bored with them at this point. But yeah,
well, it's
don't
so
you find them a little?
oversaturated
And they're a little
that
easy to
everybody's
grow.
growing the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, but I think the tide is turning a little bit. I think the market's getting tired of that, and I think a lot of the consumers, even the younger ones, are starting to get a bit more open-minded. Like we said earlier, the nose knows. I don't know how it is. I think it's mostly pre-pack in California, right? They don't
It's
do
all
deli.
pre-pack in the legal market. Yeah.
So in Michigan, there's been a move. So there's pre-pack and there's deli. But when they first went rec, it was all pre-pack. Most of it garbage, super expensive.
Sure.
And then people started going back to deli. And now that most stores have at least some deli, if not most of their flour, people are able to get their nose in the jar. And I think it's opening up the opportunity to sell way more of these strains, because it's easy for the budtender to be like, well, what kind of smells and tastes? Well, here, smell this. We just got this and this is amazing. And people then put their nose in the jar and they're like, wow, they're now potentially trying something that they never would have walked in the store and just ordered based on the name or their prior knowledge. Now that people can get their nose in the jars, I think they're becoming much more open-minded to a more diverse, pool of genetics. And we're starting to see that. People are growing a wider variety of flavors. People are asking for sativas and citruses and lemons and pines and OGs.
It's so hard to find some of these because we bred out so many of these plants, and we did not keep the mothers protected, because it just seems so. I can't even emphasize to you the amount of great mother plants that I got rid of over the years, because I was just like, I'll just get it again later, like original kosher Kush cut from DNA, directly from Don and Aaron, like original Tangy cuts, original Girl Scout cookies. I mean, my Malibu 91 Sour Diesel 91. That's my cuts originally from like the Rick Shivas and all of that. It's like, and then we just lost them. They're just gone now, and it's it's like the craziest thing in the world because when you trace back so many of these genetics now, it all comes that you'll always notice there's one great bit where it just says crossed mystery genetic. And it's like, yeah, because that was just some crappy hermed piece of crap that got out there, and that's what made your super, and it's just like, so already you've got like a bad genetic, you know what I mean? Like it's just,
Unstable Hermes stuff. A lot of
and
good stuff came from that, though. A lot of the legends, the chems, possibly the
it's
OG.
just
There was
funny
a
because
lot
from
of
the
happy
LA days, though,
accidents.
there were so many dispensaries selling clones that were just of random garbage. And there was
Sure, yeah.
thousands upon thousands of these clones out there across the
Mislabeled.
state. And those are so many of the mystery cuts that are permeating so many of the new cuts of today. And that's where we have that little laugh because it's just like it was just because back in say I'm going to say like 2013. I mean, I must have had 5 people a week come through the door who would be like, I'm a seed vendor, and you're like, I wouldn't touch your seeds if you paid me to, like you're going to give those
Hmm.
to a guy with a full on, no, you're going to do something crazy to the whole crop, but somebody bought them. And then they went out there, and those thousands became 2000s of other things and permeated the entire area. And it's like that's where I get frustrated because it's like there's just this huge cloud around those years that just changed everything. It just changed the genealogy of all of our genetics. And you really can see the changeover of when all these crazy strains started coming out, these crosses and these weird looking, how many OGs did we get at that point in time that were only kind of 1/3 OG and then 2/3 something else, but yet good enough to call it OG. You
And
know
even
what
they
I
had it
mean?
in the lineage when it was popular. People, this is the whatever OG,
It
just
was
to be
just
able to
strong
sell
enough
it.
for it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's why it's like I really am I'm loving that there's a lot of people out there really trying to trace the origins of cannabis right now to really get those hands on those genetics. Before he died, Franco out in Switzerland, he had all of those great seeds in his seed bank. We still do have a lot out there. It's just whether they're going to get back into the market and whether people are going to be willing to put in the time and energy to, you know, if they're non-feminized, are you going to spend 2 years sexing, picking the right phenome, the whole, literally it can be 2, 3 years for some of these people. In corporate mindset, might as well just be flushing money down the toilet.
no,
But
they
in
want
our
the hype
mindset,
clone that they can turn and burn immediately.
absolutely. But for our mindset of the old school people who still want, and it's like, and so I was there. When 2018, when the Canadians came into California, right at the beginning of legalization, I got hooked right on up with them. I was working with a publicly traded cannabis company. It was like I was right in the heart of it. They were the guys who were partially behind MedMen. I'm telling you, I witnessed like the beast super close up right in there. And I'm also the guy who's going to, Hall of Flowers and all hanging out with guys like yourself and touring the plants and talking growing and watching these two worlds right now, especially right now. Because at first it was like everybody was like, let's get all together. But now it's
Yeah,
not at
it
all.
didn't last. Now
No, it did
there's
not. The
there's
goodwill
a
did not lie.
tension.
Have you guys ever been canceled on social media?
Had stuff canceled off, like post, like accounts closed and things. All my shops have multiple times.
No, just canceled. Like people disagree with you and shut you down and be like, "Hey, don't listen to this guy. He's an idiot."
I
You
got
have like a
called the
community
Chad a
after
few
you.
times. I got called Chad a few times on a few Beard Bros threads, but I'm friends with those guys, so they would always write like, "Hey, this guy isn't like that." I'd be like, but other than
You had
that,
somebody to come back you up. Nice.
the only time that you could ever really say I faced crazy social media backlash was, are you familiar with the First Amendment auditors who go outside of
I'm not.
businesses? They stand outside of businesses and they stand like on the street and they just stand there with cameras and they're like dressed head to toe in like masks and all that stuff. And when you go
Okay.
out there and you go, "Hey, what are you doing out here?" Nobody says anything. But then the guy to the right of you will go like, and you'll be like, "What'd you say?" And you'll go over to him and then he'll be dead quiet and they get you agitated. And then they start filming when you start angry and they go on YouTube and there are these crazy interactions because they are on public property, so they are legally allowed to do what they're doing. But they have a
Right.
way of doing this thing where they rile you up and then start filming you when you're angry. So at the time, I was working with a couple of guys who were like, were Persian, and they were making some serious anti-Muslim stuff, and these guys were getting riled
Uh-oh.
up. So I come out and I start going, "What are you doing? Why are you yelling at my buddies?" And one of my favorite comments, of course, on YouTube is the bald senior citizen looks like he's about to have a heart attack, which I still hold to my heart to this day. But
Wow.
but they sit there and then as they do things, people comment on their thing like and pay money to them, being like, "Hey, here's $5. Call the tall guy a douchebag," and they'll be like, "Hey, douchebag," and stuff like that.
Sure.
Oh,
So that then basically your phone gets flooded for the next like month with people going, "Why are you anti the Constitution? Why are you trying to break their free speech?" And
Sure.
because they claim they're just doing their First Amendment, they're just standing outside. That was particularly rough, I will say. But me personally, no.
no, they're just looking to get a rise and make content. It's awful. I thankfully have
Well,
not had any interaction with them. I've never had the wagons circle around me trying to
Ugh,
cancel me. I've had, I mean, especially years ago, some heated debates online with people back and forth. But I generally avoid arguing with idiots on the internet these days.
pointless.
I see an opinion I don't like, and 99% of the time, I just scroll
Yeah.
by it. There's no value from, getting into some screaming match on the internet, and then their people are circling, and it escalates and just turns
Listen,
into a
I've had
mess.
enough dealing with hate of other people in my life, as I said, having like the head of Dare put her finger in my face, the city attorney of LA, the city of councils, all of those people. I argued with people in real life. I don't need to have, some guy wants to sit on his keyboard and talk about cannabis. And, it's why I laugh at the LinkedIn people of always saying, like, here's the problem with modern dispensaries. Like, really? Is that the problem? Like, like
yeah.
I
You're
spent,
the one that figured it out.
yeah,
You got it.
finally. Oh my God. I thought it was the 50 hours a week that I'm spending inside of the shop, but no, I guess not, It might have been one of my bud tenders once estimated I've sold about to about 20,000 different people, individual people in my time, probably even more. So it's like, oh, but this guy's going to tell me what's wrong with the consumers of today, what they want, and all of that stuff.
The consultant who's been doing it for 9 months has got it all figured out.
My favorite was during the transition from the 18 to now years from we had this one CEO came into our company. He had been worked at like Target and Sears and all that stuff. And he was like, "I want to do all the deliveries on motorcycles." And we were like, "You can't. You're legally not allowed to do deliveries on motorcycles." That's a lie. You're like, that's a lie. You're telling me that's a lie. I like, okay, fine. I'm lying. I have a secret agenda to try and stop you from using motorcycles. You know, it's
Well,
when he could easily look it up and see that you're not lying, like
oh, it was
in the rule.
such
can-
a thing.
I can tell you just from kind of being a social media presence, it's hard not to upset somebody. You know, if you have an opinion, or even if you're just simply stating things that are 100% factual and true, and it goes against someone's worldview or their narrative that they're trying to push, then they are just going to attack you relentlessly. That's the way people disagree these days. I've been canceled twice in the last year and a half on social media. Yeah. Doesn't even bother me anymore. Some of my haters are some of my biggest advocates, really. They don't realize it, but they're out there making so much noise. People really want to know what's going on with this Dave guy. This guy's off the chain.
I mean, you can do, in today's world, it's particularly easy to do things. I always learned long ago, just, you know, anybody, like, I literally, for the longest time, we had a sign up at our shop that just said, if you try and talk politics with me, there's going to be a 5% surcharge.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
I just won't. I'll talk weed politics with you. I'll talk weed laws and all of that stuff. But as soon as somebody would be like, so what do you think about? Nope. Sorry, being like, look, a blue car. Have you seen this car, this strain? It's beautiful. Like, I just don't do it. And I'm way happier that way. And learned the hard ways many years ago of always, you know, fighting with people. And when you look online now, and I see these opinions and this, that, and the other, but it's like, what are you going to do? Unless you're somebody I actually respect and is making a note out there, which 90% of the people that I know don't even say crap. Like, you know, their point of view is more like, this is it. No argument. You know, like, this is the way things are right now. Here it is, and that's it. We're in a wild world, and like I said, I'm just biding my time because I know it can open up. It feels closer than ever before if we could just get the right sort of motivation. And that was what frightened me was with the Schedule 3 thing, was somebody once said, the greatest thing is if it does go to Schedule 3 fully, the motivation to change things has lessened for a lot of the newer generation. And those are the people that are going to put us over the edge. And I really kind of want to, because we have to deschedule altogether. It's just the only way for us to really move forward. Any of this other stuff, it's just asinine at this time. And not just because that's the only way that I can achieve my dream of my little corner on-site consumption spot again.
Right.
You know, I'm not just saying that out of a personal thing.
I'm a proponent of descheduling versus rescheduling.
Oh, for sure.
I
Yeah.
think the odds of it happening are just infinitesimally small.
I don't play the odds at all anymore with anything because you just never know what tomorrow could bring, even in the slightest. I mean, pardon me, like companies like TrueLeave and, you know, these are big monetary companies and they're the driving force behind some of these things. It really just takes one big check and one big push, and next thing you know, they've got the way things that they want. And it's counter to the way we wanted it when we were fighting for everything and the way we still want it to this day. You know, it's just, it's frustrating because we can get through this if we really work on it.
I want to change gears just a little bit. I want to tell you about what's going on with me in the micro business arena. And then Jeff has some experience in the micro business arena where he's from. And then I'll have him share his experience. And then I'd like to hear your thoughts about how social media programs, or if you know anything about it, what's going on in your neck of the woods. Does that sound like fun?
I am on the edge of my seat, my friend.
Okay. So about 2 years ago when I applied for a micro business license in Missouri, I was real hush hush about everything. I worked in the corporate world for a long time, served in the military, worked for the military for a long time. So any cannabis use that was going on was strictly nobody knew, right? And then I get this license, and it's like, well, I have to burn those bridges behind me now. Everybody's going to know now. So my life changed a lot. Here I am doing podcasts, talking about it. Everybody that wants to know about me and what I'm doing, they just don't have to look at much further than my YouTube channels or my face page.
Right.
So I got this license for a dispensary. My passion was growing like you gentlemen, but I got a job at a local cannabis company, which is, maybe I shouldn't have disclosed that, in Missouri, but they're a commercial, they're a vertical. They got a store in Kansas City, that they sell their product to, and they got a lot of other product that they buy from other vendors and so forth. It's a regular commercial, comprehensive dispensary. And when I learned how much compliance it was and all the rules and regulations you had to follow, I felt like, man, if I had to do all that, that would kill the soul of it for me. If I moved to Missouri, I could just grow my own medicine anyway, So I applied at the last minute. I said, I'll just do a dispensary license. If I had to do this for a job, it would just kill it for me. So I did. I applied for the license, and I was still working at the cultivation facility, and I was doing security for them on the weekends too. And I got picked in the lottery. So in Missouri, it's a lottery. You pay $1,500, you submit your application, and then they pick your name out of a lottery. I was one of 42 people that were picked out of the 1,000 or 2,000 people that applied. And I got in. Most of people get in through being in a low income zip code or having a certain income. I got in because I'm a disabled veteran. That was my in. And there's other different qualifying factors here. But I got in, and then, as you know, and it's still federally illegal, so I don't qualify to get like any kind of like small business administration stuff, because that's any federally funded program are not available to me. And even banks that, if they're FDIC insured, a lot of them can't do any kind of cannabis lending. Even to have a cannabis account for your dispensary, you have to go to a specialized bank. So it's tough. And realtors, you have to have a specialized realtor. I'm trying to find a location. Most realtors don't even want to talk to you because there's specific zoning stuff that you have to know about in order to have a building that's within compliance. It's got to be so many feet from a dispensary, or a daycare, sometimes another dispensary, or a church type facility. So there's a lot of stuff. So it's tough. So I thought before this, I was like, I'm going to get this license and I'm going to have a truck. Somebody's going to back a truckload full of money up and just dump it right on my front doorstep. And I'm going to be so rich. Everybody's going to want to be my friend. Man, it's dog eat dog out here. There's no money. I have made less progress than when I first got this license. I have made negative progress, it seems like sometimes. So that has kind of been my experience and where I'm at now. Jeff, tell us, you were going to get into the business and then you dodged a bullet at the last second. Is that kind of how it happened? What happened?
Yeah, so we're part of the social equity program too. We qualified for that, but that doesn't restrict what license you can get. It just gives you some like fee reductions in that. So we did that. We got our step one initial approval from the state to have, to be licensed in the industry. And I was going to do a micro business, and spent the first, 6 to 9 months scouting locations that I would be able to retail in the front and cultivate in the back, because it's all got to be combined in the same building. So there's 2 different types of micro licenses in Michigan. There's the micro business that allows you to be, you can retail any kind of product, but you can't buy any product of any kind from anyone, and you can only grow 150 plants. So I was like, this license doesn't really work. And if you get that license, you're prevented from getting any other type of license. So it locks you in there.
Right, yeah.
Then I looked at, they call it the Class A micro business here in Michigan that allows you to cultivate 300 plants and have a retailer, you can sell your own flower, but you don't have to make like concentrates and edibles. You can buy any type of infused product, concentrates, lotions, any of that you can buy from any other company. So it's a little bit better of a business. You can
Normal
grow a
business,
bit
basically.
more, and you can retail any other product and carry any other brands, but it comes with the same restriction. You can't get any other licenses if you do that. And I
Yeah.
said, well, I know I'm going to want to grow more than 300 plants. Cultivation is really my passion. My passion wasn't to be in retail, though we do want to have our own retail presence
If
at
it's the
some
model
point.
that you're describing, then yes.
Yeah, I was scared that we would be locked in this license, and I said, so even if we do this and it's working well, and we say, okay, but we actually want to build a decent size or buy a grow now and expand our retail presence, we would have been dependent on the city creating additional licenses for us because people were snagging them up and they only had a limited amount of them.
And that's
so
the whole
I-
state, or is that just the city license?
That's just the city. The state is unlimited, but the
Okay.
localities get to put whatever limits they can ban it if
So
they
this
want, or
is
they can be
what city is
unlimited.
this, man?
Benton Harbor. It's in Southwest Michigan.
So
Sort
they
of
only
not
allow a
far from-
certain
So-
amount per city and per zoning for the area.
How do you qualify for the micro business program there? Is it also a lottery, or you just put an application in, or a fee? How does it work?
You apply just like any other license in Michigan. So you would
Okay.
there's a couple of steps. First, you fill out a bunch of licensing paperwork where they do background checks and basically see if you're disqualified from being in the cannabis business. So once they approve you for that, then you
Okay.
can apply for step 2 once you have a physical location that is approved locally and licensed locally and
Oh.
completely built and ready for inspection. And so you can apply for any type
So
of
that's the
licenses
key,
from
though.
the
You have to have
micros
that
to-
location built and ready before you even have a license.
Wow.
for
before
that
you
spot.
apply for step 2. But the thing about that is basically step 2, it's step 1 decides whether or not you get the license. Step 2
Okay,
is
so
kind of just saying, okay, you have a building that's ready. Here's your paper on the wall.
Because much
Bring
of
plants.
California is the actual opposite. You have to have the location. You have to have it ready to go before you can apply for the license.
Oh,
Apply at all.
So you've got people in the social equity here in Los Angeles who have been paying rent on location since 2018 and
Whoa.
haven't opened. Yeah.
That's crazy.
oh my God, no, nightmare. Oh my God.
There will
You
be
might never
years
be able to
that
make
caught
that
up
money
like
back.
that, too, but not because if they didn't have capital or licensing was too slow. Actually, one of the big MSOs I almost took over the building that they had leased. They wanted to get one of the licenses here in Benton Harbor, and they were going to grow in the back and retail up front. And there was only 5 retail licenses, and they assumed that because they had big lawyers and money, they were guaranteed going to get one of those licenses. So they leased the building, paid rent on it for a year and a half or whatever. They brought in all kinds of power and started construction in the back to build their grow in the back. And then they didn't get one of the licenses because they didn't even talk. They just sent a consultant or a lawyer to do all their paperwork. And the city was like, no, you're an out of town big, we're going to give them to the small, like local businesses.
Telling
And
you,
so
it's-
they
it's
missed
a
out.
thing.
And then I almost took that building, but, ended up getting the building next door.
How about this? There's a guy who got a dispensary in 2018. He had a whole back area that was ready to get built up for a grow. Brought in some people, spent a couple $1 million, never got one plant up and running. By 2023. They rented it out to another company and they took it over as a grow. So all those years they sat there and they never once got the grow operational. And it was just sat there empty.
Did they run out of money?
They had run out of money. They ran out of everything. It was just, but it just sat empty the whole time for years, just big empty rooms. And they had spent millions on this company that had come in and was like, we're going to turn it into a state-of-the-art grow room. And the best they did was get some fans up.
In Missouri, the comprehensive, well, the wholesale facility, which would be what the growers are calling their license, they can only have 250 plants, flowering plants at a time.
Crazy.
And there's 2 grow facilities roughly for every dispensary license. So there's 500 plants, which is a tiny drop in a bucket compared to a commercial facility.
Comes up with these rules. It's the craziest thing, man. I just, it's.
And
like
I've sampled some of the product. I've sampled some of the product, and some of it is some of the best I've ever tried, but some of it's also some of the worst. I can't believe somebody would bring that and even let somebody else smoke it. If that was my weed, I would hide it under a rock somewhere. That was some really terrible weed too. So,
I mean, that brings us back to what we were talking about earlier with Jeff about the quality of the plants being grown these days are. I hate the term expert. There's nothing worse than these people who are like, I'm a master cultivator. I'm an expert
master grower.
They're mind blowing to me because, for me as an old school OG Kush grower, who, as I had mentioned, a guy here at the Hydro store in LA used to call them the Beverly Hills bitches of genetics because they are the most finicky plants, in the world. You put a little water in, you turn your head, next thing you know, it's all droopy and hanging, and you're like, what did I do? Whereas, our favorite conversation piece, lemon cherry gelato, you can pretty much just walk away from for a couple of days and come back, and it's still going to be happy as can be.
And they can hit right up under the light and handle that intensity versus an OG. You get above like 1,000 ppfd, and it's just it's running
everything. It doesn't like anything. It's too windy. It's too cold. It's too warm. It's my friend who, if there's anybody in this world who I personally call a master grower, a guy who taught me one of the things, he has his own personal genetic, and he'd been growing it for decades. I mean, literally, legitimately decades. Gave it to these people who are going to be, the big cultivators, masters, and they couldn't get past week 4 with it. And they kept going, this is a bunk genetic. It's a bunk genetic. And he was like, it's not bunk. You just can't grow. Some of these people, they can't, they don't know what they would do if they're faced with some true complications across the board, and it comes back to what we're saying of, you've got a room where you're going to have 250 plants that are going to be some of the best you've ever smoked, and then you're going to have something. And I learned that way back in the day was when we got the original strawberry cough cut, and they were given to 2 different growers. One guy gave me this one cut, and I'll never forget sitting with my then just girlfriend, now wife, going, this is the best strawberry cough. I can't even believe this is real. This is the greatest thing I've ever smoked. And another person going, And it was the same cut.
Sure. Yeah.
But 2 different
that's
growers.
Where we're at now.
That was my point earlier about genetics. Like people that say they like, a runts or whatever. You can't say that you like runts and then go to get a different brand, from a different grower of runts and expect it to be the same. It's going to be completely different.
Way different.
Even if even if the genetics came from the same place, it's going to be different.
Well, my favorite is the white labeling stuff, especially in the beginning of the new corporate world. Was I had the same plant in 4 different company jars at 4 different prices, and people. I mean, it's literally the exact same plant, same batch, everything, 4 different companies. And people would be like, no, I don't like that one. I only like this company here. You'd be like, well, you only like that company.
That's funny.
That's the kind of experimentation that I've gotten to be privy to over the years that so many other people have not when it comes to my anecdotal evidence of things. It's my favorite now is just with the vape pens is everybody and their mother comes in and goes, what's the best vape pen? And I go, whichever one you like is the best one, because I got, for every one vape pen, I got 5 people who love it and 5 people who say that was the worst thing they ever tried in their entire life, and nobody in between. So, like.
I just heard a statistic that said that vape pens last year were the #1 seller in the United States. They surpassed flour, plain flour, for the first time ever. I don't know if that's true, but I read it on the internet, so it must be true.
It is at my shop that I'm at now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Absolutely. It's, at first I didn't want to believe it.
Right.
And the demographics of, one of the most fantastic things that I've learned, I've had dispensaries all across California. I mean, 13 shops just across the state. And what sells in one doesn't sell in another at all. And you can talk within a couple of miles difference will change the entire demographic of what sells in certain shops.
That's interesting.
So, it's really amazing what will sell here will not sell here, but this here and over there. So every time I would go to a new place, I would go in with this cockiness of being like, let's get this product in here. And it wouldn't sell simply because that shop doesn't sell that kind of thing for that demographic. So like my biggest one was drinks. For the longest time when I was in the Valley here in Los Angeles, drinks were not a very big seller at all. I mean, I couldn't even give them away, to be honest. I would literally be like, free drink with everything you buy. People would be like, nah, I'm cool. And it's like, and now, I mean, I don't even almost bother filling the fridge. I just keep the boxes right outside the fridge because people buy them in bulk. I mean, Super Bowl Sunday, I was selling them by caseloads, drinks. I mean, they're okay. They're not really for me. They make a nice novelty. But vape pens right now, it's pretty absurd with the all-in-one. We're not allowed to use the word disposable because therefore, it's like, I laugh. It's my favorite thing. It's like way back in the day, you weren't allowed to use the word bong in a smoke shop.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, they'd throw you right out, too. They would. Yeah. Yeah. I've done that before. That's funny.
People come in, they're like, what disposables do you have? I'm like, you mean all-in-ones? I have all kinds of all-in-ones right now.
Yeah.
And
that's so funny.
But they sell, I mean, it's ridiculous. To me, the joke is about these things, it's like they have a time and a place. Like, here, I'm not about to sit here on a podcast and be like, excuse me, gentlemen, while I pull out my bong and do a big rip right here and then start coughing for a few seconds and we pause, just let Jeff talk riff for a few minutes while I do this. You just hit this for a second, boom, you're done. I am on the freeway out here in LA all the time. Yeah, all right, I'm not supposed to smoke while you drive. But hey, if you've ever been on LA freeways, you know these are a key part of life. But am I sitting on my couch smoking it? Am I sitting in my house with one of these things, besides a moment like this? No, they're not for me. But there's just so many people who do. And these flavored ones and all these, and again, it's a lot of the under 27-year-old crowd. And, they're the experts. They want to check the THC numbers of all their vape pens. This one's 89.6. This one's 89.7. All right, give me the 89.7. You're right. That 0.1 is really that little thing. Hey, do me a favor. What does THC stand for? One day I'm going to snap and I'm going to ask that to someone. Just be like, hey, what does THC stand for that it's so important to you? What is it? Is that's going to be something that's going to hit LinkedIn? Guy snaps in dispensary on young clients. You want packaging date? I'll give you packaging date. I'll give you your packaging date.
Duke of Pico loses his shit. Story at 7.
There are many days where you're just kind of just like, you'll be happy, and as soon as somebody says a certain keyword, you'll just be like, all right, what else do you want? But it is really quite something. The vape pens have changed the game.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely changed the game completely. And the sad thing is there's only about 10 to 15 oil companies that are really making all the oil for these vape pens across California. So it's like, again, everybody's smoking really the same things. It just depends on who it's from, what the apparatus is. You know, this one's got a ceramic tip. This one fits stizzy. This one doesn't, you know, plug and play, this and that. It's, you know, there's no rhyme or reason, if you ask me, to any of it whatsoever. They're all the same. You know? Just give me what's on sale at this point in time is all I care about.
Maybe you could give us some insight on this topic. Jeff and I talked about pre-mediation a little bit. They doing any of that stuff in California? And
With the remediation?
if they are, what are your thoughts? Pre-mediation, yeah.
Pre-mediation. What is the pre-mediation?
Right.
Meaning that it's remediation, but we're referring to companies that they don't bother sending out to test, and then if it fails remediating it, they just remediate 100% of the product before they send it off, so they're sure that everything passes. I know a lot of the large scale.
I'm not sure really of many California companies doing it. They'll do whatever they can to get through. Let me tell you a quick story here. Back in, it was about, I would say maybe 2010, 2011. We were at a press conference with the city attorney of Los Angeles, this guy named Carmen Trutanich, who looked like this dude straight out of The Sopranos, just this big thug guy, right? He took out a can of Raid, the bug spray, and he sprayed the feet of all the reporters, not in front of them, but literally on their feet, and said, all of this is what's on all the marijuana in Los Angeles. And all of a sudden, everybody was writing about how all the pot in LA was poisoned. And it was at that moment that testing was born. And I'm not even exaggerating.
Huh.
At that moment, everybody was like, ooh, well, we need to start testing our products for all this stuff. And people like me were like, no, I'm there to make sure that I'm not selling stuff with Raid on it. I know the difference between, you know, herb that's been sprayed with crap and real stuff. That's what the whole point was. So then they started really pushing, because at that point there was only really one lab, and that was Steep Hill. And they were mainly just doing testing and stuff for the scientific sake of doing it with, who was it? It was Addison Demura and Robert C. Clark and Mojave Richmond and all of these OG growers. They really just wanted to get into the etymology of cannabis, and that was what the lab was. But all of a sudden, they were now being inundated with testing. We want to know what pesticides are on here. We want to know what's on this, this, and this. So for me, the whole testing debacle and remediation and pre-mediation, which is now my new favorite word of the week, it's just maddening, because I like to say it was the answer to a question nobody asked. It was a PR stunt by the city attorney of Los Angeles that made this entire industry be born. Because honestly, if there was a pie chart or a chart, you would just see it just go testing, you know, right when he did that. And because up until that point, it was a joke. I remember Michael Backus talking to us as a group at Glocka, just being like, oh yeah, we're testing for potency on marijuana, and OG is the highest tester, 21%. No one's higher, 21%. And we were like, oh, okay, wow, that's cool. All right, hey, knowing testing on thing. Then it became about the potency. So now all of a sudden this remediation and pre-mediation, and you had a guy, we had a huge batch of cannabis that was recalled here because the guy who was testing it was eating almonds at the time. And some of the almond got on his glove when he was doing the test, and then that bud failed. So then they told that company they had to burn the entire product, you know, get rid of it.
What? Wow, that's a serious remediation process.
Get rid of the whole, they were like, it's poison. You can't get rid of. You got to get rid of the whole
Oh,
thing.
wow.
They sent it back in and said, nope, test it again. We want to test again. And then they did a whole back trace, and then it turned out it was this guy. And this was early on in the testing. So all of a sudden, it was like, wow, so this is infallible. Then it was like, okay, a bunch of groups took 5 genetics that were well known across the board. Like we knew the growers from way back in the day, we knew how they were grown, the whole 9 yards. And we sent those 5 strains to 5 different labs. We got 5 different results from each lab. Each lab gave us completely different results for things. And there was just, so it was like, why are we putting so much faith into this, into these people, into this group? And as we've seen, every 5 minutes, it's this lab gets busted because it was taking bribes for raising.
Oh yeah, it's so common. It's the most open, dirty little secret in the cannabis industry.
Absolutely.
THC inflation is out of control. I just saw today my son grabbed some Skittles from a dispensary, and it's on the label 28.9%.
Oh.
Skittles does not get anywhere near that high. It's a nonsense number.
My favorite was when the strain that I was talking about, 4 different jars, 4 different companies, was the Toad, the GMO cookie, because everybody wanted it. So at that point, it was in 4 different brands. I mean, my favorite day was I sat with a couple of hardcore guys like that Robert C. Clark guy and stuff, and we all smoked the 30%. First time the 30% number was broken. We went out, got the flower, we smoked the joint, stubbed it out, and then Michael Backus, the writer of Cannabis Pharmacy, he's my science guru. His nickname in the business is Morpheus. I'll put it to you that way. As I'm the Duke of Pico, he's Morpheus. So sums it up. But his book is excellent. If you ever get a chance, going to give him a free plug. Cannabis Pharmacy by Michael Backus. But we stubbed out the joint, and he looked at us and he goes, let me tell you why you didn't like that. And for the next 30 minutes, I was a teenager back in school. Like, do I need to start taking notes? Is this on the test, Michael? It's like, yeah, they test super high, but for certain body chemistries, especially those of us in California are used to our OG Kushes and pinene and limenes, these high myrcene flowers and stuff like that, it's just not really going to do it for us. They kind of got that sobering almost effect to us, where it's like you smoke it, you're just kind of like, I don't really feel like I'm stoned per se, Remember when you were stoned?
Sure, yeah. Guys, we're getting close to 90 minutes. So I got one question that I want to ask both of you, and then I want to give you each a chance to say goodbye to the audience before we sign off. So this last question is, you guys are both legacy guys, and Jeff's trying to come into the legit market, the legal cannabis market. He's really close. He's got inspections coming up. Hopefully we'll see some success.
For you, bro.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. And Oliver's talking about that's what he wants. That's his dream. He wants to have the little mom and pop shop where he runs things his way and does his business.
You should say again, full circle.
So my question is, what's the most common mistake that you see legacy growers make when they try and go legal for the first time? What's the biggest mistake? Jeff, you go first.
I was going to say.
Well, so a lot of them, I think, underestimate the complexies of running a highly regulated business where everything needs to be
good
tracked.
question. Ooh, good answer.
They don't, have any experience or knowledge, reading a financial statement, building a budget. So you might know, you might be a good grower or know a lot about weed. But this is a much more difficult business than most. It's hyper competitive. It's very complex, and I think people underestimate the cost of getting involved in it too. So it's much more complex. than they think. The licensing process is difficult, and to have a facility that complies with all the regulations at both the local and state level is crazy expensive. So I think that's a big part of it. They're underestimating how difficult it's going to be to even just get into it,
Sure.
let alone then to be able to manage trying to get into dozens or maybe even hundreds of stores depending on your size, having to deal with all those people and then manage a team and then track it all and keep it organized and efficient. I think a lot of people aren't quite ready for that.
Oh, hey, Jeff, that was a really good answer. Well played, sir. Yeah, Jeff Khoshaba, everybody. Thanks so much for being on the show, brother. How about you, Oliver? You got any advice for legacy guys trying to make it legal so that they don't fail?
I have to agree with it. Absolutely everything that Jeff just said. So ditto and times two. I think the only other thing really to add in that I tell every grower is probably the one thing that every grower seems to forget, which is your first crop is going to suck donkey balls. And people need to really realize that there is so many factors that you're going to learn about your room. You can take a room and mimic it exactly in another location, and it's not going to matter. All of a sudden, there's not enough light in this corner. The water's not right on this one. Your mix doesn't work. The air quality is there's so many little factors that first crop never comes out good, if you ask me. Like it's passable. But if you're people like ourselves, we're just kind of like a little bit like.
Or I like to keep things in perspective. I like to compare it to back in the day when we used to smoke that brickweed. Is it better than that brickweed? Yeah, smoke that. Put it in a pipe and smoke that.
You got some good head cash for a while there, but it's definitely. It's just there's so many factors that they just always miss out on and never see. And then the other big thing that I always try to tell people is, in today's market, you got to be prepared to give away so much of your product for free. Yeah. You got to give it all. Those budtenders are the lifeblood of the company. If they will let your product die on the shelf, if they don't know what it is, it's not that they have any personal thing towards it or don't like it or anything. If they just don't know it, they're not going to sell it. Even if they have a somewhat negative opinion of it, at least they know what it is because you gave them some to try.
Well, and a good budtender knows that they're not trying to sell somebody necessarily something that they like, but something hopefully that the customer will like. And just because they don't like blueberry sour runt's butthole, doesn't mean that somebody else isn't really going to enjoy the flavor on that butthole.
Lemon cherry gelato up the wazoo all day long. I mean, I can honestly say I probably move a pound of it my own self every day.
Sure, there you go, right?
But it's like
there's a customer that wants that. You want them to get that,
They just need to. I can't emphasize, because I've been saying this I've been doing speaking events since about 2015 to the new entrepreneurs of cannabis. And I've said since then, it's been 11 years of saying the exact same thing. Bribe the budtenders, not with, and here's the trick, lanyards. Nobody wants a fucking lanyard anymore. Take away the God blessed lanyards. Yeah. All right. Lighters and weed as much as possible. And then to the clients themselves, like BOGO days. Be sure that your dispensary that you're selling to, it's like have a day where it's like buy one, get an eighth for $1 or whatever. Because once you just get that name out there and you get people to know what your product is, then that's how it moves, because people will get locked in. They get so locked into a brand very quick. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. But I see it all day long. Like, people will just come in, and it does not matter what the quality really is, as long as it's that brand.
Yeah.
And that brand did its job. That's it. You know?
Even though I have said it earlier that Blue Dream that you bought at this dispensary is not going to be the same experience. I will try a Jack Herrera anywhere I go if it's on the menu.
Sorry,
will try it.
So a couple of weeks ago, I was hanging around Jack Herrera's son, and we were talking and blah, blah, blah. And I was mentioning this story to somebody, and they turned to me and went, wow, he was a real guy.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oops.
That's where we are now.
Yeah, wow.
You know, like, yeah. I was like, okay, yeah, yes, he was a real person.
So, Mr. Oliver, so you've been on probably a lot of podcasts, and I've got to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, this has probably been, it's been a 10 for you for sure. You don't even have to rank it, but
this one goes to 11.
This one goes to 11, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So would you say that you would definitely recommend this experience to future listeners, or no?
Absolutely. I've already figured out. Say, I really would love to have you meet Virgil Grant from Social Influence. Let me do that one more time, because that was the whole thing. Virgil Grant was a social equity leader here in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay, cool. Interesting.
He is the man to talk to about such things.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sure, right on.
Another super OG.
Right on. How about you, Jeff? Obviously, it's been a premium experience for you. You came back for round 2 as a co-host, attaching your name to my name a little bit there. That's a little risky, some people might say. So, but I guess you'd say it was a positive experience for you, huh?
It's been an awesome experience. Both times have been great. I'd be happy to come back on or help out any other time, and would highly recommend it to other guests.
Awesome.
I appreciate you having me on. Thanks for the exposure. The conversations have been awesome.
My pleasure. It's so fun. I almost always, when I have a co-host and to come on, usually I ask a former guest to come on back as an episode. So you might have to show up again in the future yourself, Oliver.
Oh, my,
so keep that.
Thank you.
Keep that in the back of your mind. Yeah. So I almost always, the co-host and the host end up like being business partners in a significant way, or friends or something like that. And it's funny that the guests that I'm having tomorrow have the same kind of, they were friends on LinkedIn, kind of followed each other on LinkedIn, but didn't really know each other. So this is a great opportunity for you guys to get to know each other. Hopefully you guys are going to be best friends now, just like all of us, best friends for life.
Damn right. There it is. That's the trick.
There is so much hate out there in these cannabis communities, people hating on each other for having a different idea or a different opinion. Man, that's so silly. We need to look at the things that bind us together. We're all brothers and sisters in our humanity. Let's start there. Come on.
That is the whole beauty of it. Everybody smoke a joint together, there'll be world peace.
I'm going to let you guys have the last word. Jeff, do you want to tell people, what do you want to tell people? Any thoughts? You might even have a question or whatever you want to do. This time is yours, brother. Use the most of it. I know you can do it.
I would just say thank you again for having me on. It's been a ton of fun. To anybody who's looking to catch up with me or follow me online, I'm on LinkedIn, Jeff Khoshaba. I'm on Instagram at @jkhashaba and @Kashaba Craft. I'm on X at Kashaba Craft. Feel free to follow me, reach out if you want to network, whatever. Always happy to mix it up with people in the industry. And watch for us coming soon. We're finally hitting the entirety of the Michigan market this summer. Nice. Currently available just in New Buffalo at Rolling Embers, but soon across the state.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, we want to have you back on when that happens so you can update us about where it can be found and what the process was like for you. And we want to see how rich you are. Right, I mean, because instantly the millions of dollars are just going to be pouring in. You don't even have time to talk to lowlifes like me anymore.
We'll see. I'd be happy to come back on, when we're there, when that day comes.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be a fun update. So, Oliver, how about you? What are your final thoughts? What do you want to leave the audience with?
Oh, well, cannabis, and just hopefully people got a little educated, learned a little bit more about the product and our stuff that we deal with. I, still believe in the plant more than anything in the world. And I guess if anyone wants to find me on Instagram, I'm the Duke of Pico PR, actually. So at Duke of Pico PR. My at Duke of Pico is just my cultivation page if you want to take a look at some old pictures of some grows that I did in the past.
Oh, fun.
Stuff like that. And then, yeah, my book is available on Amazon. The Duke of Pico, a legal pot dealer to corporate cannabis CEO in 30 years, and talks about all kinds of fun things that we talked about today. Talked about the Howard Stern thing. I talk about my intervention for running dispensaries. My friends circled me and gave me the full intervention, and my future of jail or death if I stayed in the cannabis business.
Oh, wow.
So, as you can imagine, 20 years later, that prediction, we missed one. So, other than that, I love it. I appreciate you having me on.
You know, we didn't even talk about raids. We should. That was one thing I wanted to talk about. We missed. We'll have to do it next time.
You know, I don't feel like we missed it too much. You know, that's one of those where you put yourself back in your mindset. You're like, you know, it was cool.
I don't want to relive the trauma. What everybody needs to have during a raid is like a friend or a pothead that's there with you, that as soon as the cops come in, they start complaining about like the raid, like, have you guys got all the murderers? Are all the rapists in jail now? You guys don't have anything better. That's the kind of friend that needs to be on your side right at that moment, because that's going to smooth things over with the cops. Right, Jeff?
It makes the end of the raid much more entertaining.
It's always something.
Just shut up, man. They're trying to leave, bro.
Provided they don't crack your head open for it.
Right, yeah. For sure. Police are not known to have the best sense of humor.
No, but there's always some fun video of them doing stuff that's funny.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys. Well, this has been one for the books. I had a good time. Thanks so much for being here. And everybody, I appreciate you tuning in to The Blunt Truth. We're going to do another episode soon with Angie Roulier and Megan, and I'm not going to say her last name because I'll get it wrong. I haven't spoken to her yet to get the pronunciation right. But we're going to talk about scromiting, cannabinoid hypermesis syndrome. Have you scromited? Do you know somebody that's scromited? You won't want to miss that episode. Tune in tomorrow to find out. All right. You've been listening to The Blunt Truth. We're here to keep you informed on the reality of the cannabis world, one headline at a time. If you found this briefing valuable, please like, subscribe, and most importantly, leave a comment on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts to help us grow this mission. Your comments really help shape future episodes. Stay sharp, stay informed, and I'll catch you on the next objective. This is High and Tight Media Productions, out.